Hello everybody, this is Astocky here, and with the update of Tekkit to 3.1.2, I thought I would update my Tekkit video because I guess it's a little bit out of date. So if you're looking for how to create a Tekkit server, this is the place to be looking. It's going to be specific right now to 3.1.2 because that's the current version, but this should pretty much work for any version. So first things first, before you even start with Tekkit, what you need to do is you need to fix your Java. So the first thing you should do is you should do a Google search for Java runtime download, and actually you better put Java 7 runtime download. And the very first icon that comes up, Java SE runtime 7 downloads, is the one that you want to click on. So we say accept the license agreement, and this should be the thing that you want to have. Now, in some cases, there's like a Java 7 update 5, and there's a couple of different ones like that. I'm not 100% sure what the latest one is. I think it's 5, but it could be 6. It all should take you to pretty much the same place though. Yep. So it all should take you pretty much the same place. This is definitely the search that I do, and that's worked for me. So you click on it and it brings you to here, you say accept. Now if you have a 32-bit system, you want to download this one here, Windows x86 offline. If you have a 64-bit system, you want to download both of them. You will need to install both of them. Now before you install Java 7, it's critical that you go to your control panel, and if you have it set up the way I do, it's under programs, it's uninstall a program. And then you have to go in here, and it's obviously J for Java, and you need to say uninstall. If you have Java 6 there, you need to uninstall Java 6. That's critically important before you get started. So once you uninstall Java 6, install this file here, Java runtime 7 Windows i586, and then once that's finished installing, if you have a 64-bit system, install the next one, which is Windows-x64. Once you've done that, that will install your Java. The way to test that your Java is working is open up here, type cmd to bring up a command prompt, and type java-version. Basically what that will do is that will bring up the current version you have. You can see here mine is running 1.7_05, which is update 5, and you can see there that it says it's a 64-bit. So obviously that matches up with my system. If you're not sure if you have a 64-bit system, you can click on Start menu, right click on Computer or My Computer and go to Properties, and that will tell you. You can see in this case just here mine says I'm running Windows 7 Home Premium, and then down the bottom it says System Type 64-bit, and that's my PC specs for anyone who's interested. So that's basically how all that sort of stuff works, and that will have you your Java. If at the end of installing that you get an error that says something along the lines of cannot locate Java or Java not recognized as a command, what you want to do is open up your computer, go to C drive, go to program files, not program files x86. Every time someone posts that go into there and change this, I just cringe. You don't want to use x86. You always want to use the one that's in here, and then you want to open up your Java folder, and then open up JRE, and then open up bin. This is the folder that you need, and that's the Java that you need. So basically what you just do is you click up here and you just copy that whole setup. Now this next bit that I'm going to show you is only really going to work if you're on Windows 7, but for other Windows it's fairly similar. Just give me one sec. Okay, sorry about that, I had to cough then. So for those of you who are running Windows XP, Google how to set Windows environment variables, and it will pretty much go through the process of telling you how to set the environment variable. So it's pretty straightforward. For those of you using Windows 7 like me, it's under the same thing as before. Right click on Computer, go to Properties, and then Advanced System Settings, and then the Advanced tab will come up under System Properties. Click on Environment Variables, and it's in there. So what you want to do is you want to go to User Variables, and then below that there's a window that says System Variables. You want to click on Path, click on Edit, and at the very end of it you want to put : space, and then copy what you typed in before, which is C drive program files Java JRE7 bin. I'm not going to do that because I've installed mine correctly and mine already works, and if you've installed yours correctly as well, it should work. Sometimes it won't, and if it doesn't, that's when you'll need to do this. Now that environment variables is going to look pretty much the same, it's just very slightly different depending on how you actually end up getting to it, depending on which operating system you're using. But now that you've got Java, and now that you have everything installed and you know that it's working, you can now come back to here, and what you want to do is you want to go to the Tekkit tab, which is the Technic web page. You can see Tekkit 3.1. You want to download the Tekkit server. So I'm going to save that file. I'm going to put it in my Minecraft area. And I'm going to make a new folder called Tekkit. I'm going to save the file in there. And the next thing that's very important is Tekkit's been updating a lot lately, so it's very important that you also download a new copy of the Tekkit launcher. Should be starting, there we go. And I'm going to save mine in the same place. It's important because if you have an out-of-date Tekkit launcher, there's a very, very good chance that it won't work with the new versions of Tekkit and you'll get an error. And nobody wants errors. Okay, so we'll go to my Tekkit folder. Now, whether you use Windows or WinRAR or 7-zip, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Whatever you do, you have to take all of the files and you have to put them into a new folder. Doesn't matter what you call it, but they have to be unzipped into a separate folder. You can't double click on launch.bat the way it opens up there. It'll come up that it can't find tekkit.jar. Sorry about that, had to cough again. Okay, so once everything is unzipped, you'll see you don't have a server.properties file and you don't have a plugins folder. That's all fine. What you basically want to do is you want to start by right clicking on launch.bat and going edit. For those of you who don't have the .bat at the end, who just have launch, you can go to your Windows options, which is Alt-T, brings up tools, under folder options, the view tab, scroll down a little way. There's a tick here that says hide extensions for known file types. I have that turned off, but basically if you see that symbol and you see launch, you know that it'll work. So then you right click on launch and say edit. The current configuration that they have there, which is the default Tekkit setting, won't work if you have a 32-bit operating system or you have less than 4 gig of RAM. These values here of 3 gigabytes and 2 gigabytes, you will either need to change those. So I'll just copy the line and show you what I changed it to. You will either need to change it to 1 gig and 1 gig, or some people have an issue with that, and for them they have to put 1024M. 1024M and 1 gig are exactly the same. It makes no real difference. So that line there I have highlighted will work if you have a 64-bit operating system and more than 4 gig of RAM. That second line is for those that don't. I do, so I'm going to leave it as the first line. Now that I know my Java's working and I know my memory settings are fine, I can double click on launch.bat and you can see that the server will run. So this particular line here, warning, could not get information about this craft bucket version, perhaps you're using a custom one. That is correct. Tekkit is using a custom craft bucket server, and that's not a problem. Now the first time you run it, and only the first time, you will see this line here, creating railcraft save file. That means that it worked. Now you type stop and press enter, and that will stop the server, and you are now 9/10 of the way there. You can see that it's created a plugins folder, but it is empty because Tekkit doesn't currently come with any plugins, but you can see that there are lots of mods in there, lots of config files, so everything is configured exactly the way you need it. Now the last thing that you're going to need to do is server.properties. See how when you right click, by default it doesn't give you an option to open it. I've just recently formatted my computer so mine doesn't either, so what you do is you click on open, say you want to select a program, and then it will give you a list of all the programs that it thinks might be able to open it. Because I don't have anything else, I'm going to select WordPad, and I'm going to use WordPad to open it. Well, my goodness, sorry about that. I've got something in my throat, I think. Okay, so this is your server setup basically. So here you can put whatever you want to call the world. You can see that it's currently called world, and it created 3 folders when it ran the first time called world. I'm going to delete those because I don't want to call it world. I want to call it Tekkit Server. Now the next time it runs, it's going to create 3 folders called Tekkit Server. So allow flight. You need to make that true because the Tekkit server has equivalent exchange and a few other mods that let you fly, and people could get kicked off. Now here is the server IP line. If you are using port forwarding or you're playing on a local network, leave that line blank. If you're using Hamachi, that's where you put in the Hamachi IP of the server. Spawn NPCs, whitelist, spawn animals, online mode. These things, you don't really need to change them. I don't feel the need to change them, although I don't like PvP being on, so I always change that. You can change the difficulty or the game mode. Now the max player setting here of 20. If you have a server with 3 GB of RAM running Tekkit, it should work just fine. I would normally suggest dropping that to 15 though, but basically the way I look at it is you get about 5 players per gigabyte of RAM you have allocated to the server. So if you change the value to 1 gig, you're going to want to change the max players down to about 5. You can, kind of play around and see how it works for you. The other thing that also needs to be taken into account is your internet connection. I have a 3 megabit upload speed, so for me, if you do the math, it works out being about 1 player per 500 kilobytes plus 1 for the server. So in my case, I've got 3, so double that to make it 6. That means I could have 6 players, but the server takes 1, so that means the maximum I can really support comfortably is 5. It's a bit hit and miss. You can sometimes support more players if you're in a good area with low ping, but I like to err on the side of making sure that it will work for people, that people won't have any troubles. So by making it 5, that works for me. So I'm going to save that now and close it. And now I'm going to run launch.bat again. And you can see that once again it's going to create a spawn, and this time it's created 3 folders called Tekkit Server, which basically stores all my world information for this server. You'll see that we'll jump down here. It says Railcraft loaded 0 save anchors, created Railcraft save file. If I stop the server and then I run the server again, this time it won't create that Railcraft save file and it won't create spawn. It will stop at Railcraft loaded 0 saved anchors. That basically means that it works. So now to test the server, you obviously are going to need to run the Tekkit launcher. So I'm going to just pause the video for a second and I'll be back in a moment once I've got the launcher running. Okay, I'm now back. Here I have the Tekkit launcher running. So you can see here that you click on the drop down tab, click on Tekkit. This is the first time I've actually run it. So we're going to come down here, we're going to say remember, we're going to put all of our Minecraft login details together, and then what we are going to do is we're going to go to options. Now because the server that I downloaded was 3.1.2, you can see always use recommended builds gives me build 3.0.3. Obviously that's not the same as 3.1.2, so that won't work. So go to manual build selection, use the drop down and pick the build that matches the server you're running. In that case it's 3.1.2 latest. Now a lot of people recommend using always use development builds, but then the problem is if they push out a new development client, it'll update your Tekkit client, but you might not necessarily have updated the server. So I prefer to make sure you pick the exact same version that is the version of the server that you've just got. So I'm going to press OK, click login. It's going to download everything, it's going to update everything, and it's going to install all of the things that it needs to get it running. So I'm going to pause the video now and I'm going to come back once it's launched. Okay, so here we are. The server has now launched. Sorry, not the server, the client has now launched. You can see that we have booted up. we're in Minecraft 1.2.5, 41 mods were loaded, everything is working well. If you don't get 41 mods loaded, chances are you have an out-of-date version of the Tekkit client launcher. And if you have any other kind of problems, then you know you have another issue as well. So we're coming here to multiplayer. Now this particular option that I'm about to pick, I'm just going to turn the volume down a bit because that's crazy loud, and invert my mouse. The way to test that your server works once you have it running is to use direct connect, type localhost, and then the default port is 25565. Now if you wanted to run more than one server on the same computer, you could, providing that you change the port. So the default is 25565. You could pick maybe 25585 or 95 or something like that and have a second server running. I wouldn't suggest that because Tekkit servers are quite intensive and you're just asking for trouble if you try and run more than one of them at the same time. A better bet, I think, would be to have two separate folders with two separate servers set up, and then run one, stop it when you finish playing with it that day, and then potentially load up the other one that way. But let's just click on join server. You can see logging in, and there, we're straight in. So no problems, no bugs, no issues. If you get a Forge136 error, that means that you have picked the wrong version of the client when you went to options and picked which client you wanted. So you can see here everything is working. We can go to NEI and we can go like crazy through here, and you can see all the mods are in there. Loads and loads and loads of mods. And there are spy chickens. So there you go, you can see that that has worked. Now for those of you who are wanting to play with other people, they can't connect via localhost. Localhost will only connect to the PC that you have the server running on. So what I'm going to do now is just stop the video, go back to the server, and just quickly talk about that a little bit more before we finish up. Okay, so back to the server file in here. You can see that there were a bunch of info messages saying that I connected and that things worked. You can see that up here there's a whole lot of other different messages. Basically what you want to look for is you want to look for warnings and you want to look for severe. So we did get a warning, which was could not find information about the craft bucket. That is absolutely fine. That's because we're using a modified version. You can see that's me logging in, so that's all normal. The other warning message that you are likely to get is a warning message that says you have has the time skipped, server can't keep up, something like that. That message every now and then is okay, particularly if you type the reload command. Reload not allowed on a Forge bucket server. Okay, that's interesting. So you can type help and see a list of all the commands. I'm not sure why reload is not allowed on a Forge bucket server. That's odd, I haven't seen that message before. Now if you look here, you'll see that pretty much all of the commands have a slash in front of them. That's unusual because, so you can see there, opping Astocky. That usage with the slash in front of it, that's a bit of a misnomer, because normally you'll get a bad command, unknown command. The slash is not something that you use when you're typing into the server. The slash is only used when you're typing in from within your chat window within the actual Minecraft client. So that's the first thing. Getting back to where I just was a few seconds ago about the server can't keep up. If you get the server keep up every once in a while, that's okay. I would suggest if you get it 2 or more times in about a 10 or 15 second period, that probably means that the server actually can't keep up and you're going to start to suffer in terms of lag and how the server actually plays. If that's the case and you are playing the client on the same machine as the server, I would suggest you stop playing the client on that machine and find another machine that you can connect with, because you're basically overloading the server and it can't keep up. And if it can't keep up, things are going to start to glitch and mobs are going to start to jump all over the place, and the game's just not going to be fun for anyone. So that's basically how the server works. I'm just trying to think if there's any other common problems that people have been having. I think there's probably another problem that people have quite regularly. I'm going to stop the server because I don't need the server for this. Now, if you are using Hamachi, the IP that people would connect to in that line is your Hamachi IP. So say my Hamachi IP was 1.2.3.4, and then you put 25565 or whatever the port is. That's what you would type in as the IP to connect to. In the event that you are not using Hamachi, that you're port forwarding, you know that you left that IP in the server.properties blank. What you need to do is go to IP chicken and click on IP chicken, and IP chicken will tell you your internet IP. It won't be the same as your local IP4 address. That's your internet IP. That is the IP that people will need to use to connect to. In the event that they are using those IPs and they can't actually get connected, that means that your firewall is blocking either outgoing or incoming packets to the server. So that's something that you need to sort out. I'm not going to go into the specifics of how to port forward and how to do those because they're very specific to the configuration you have with your setup. But I think that's pretty much covered all the common things. I've covered the Forge 136 error, I've covered Java problems, I've covered how to fix memory, I've covered how to connect to the server and test to make sure that it's working, I've covered how to make sure that you've got the right version of the client. Basically, I've covered everything off, so if you have any questions, please feel free to post them. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Astocky out.